Gerald, thank you for being with me on the Courage of a Leader podcast today.
Amy, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to have this conversation with you.
I am too. I love working on myself and with others about productivity and efficiency and, how can we work smarter, not
Right.
harder? So
Exactly.
you have project management and portfolio management experience. You understand the dynamics of high performing teams. So I know you have access to and you think about and talk about a variety of paths for
Yeah.
productivity. And I know today we want to get beyond the typical time management and priority management strategies that we might hear about. So how do you help leaders see the hidden gems of productivity that they haven't seen before?
Sure. I'd be happy to share that. I share with them, interesting enough, what I learned as a musician as a kid.
Love this. Okay.
And what I mean by that is there were certain things when I started playing music at, I guess it's 10, 11 years old, and that I began to take in that I, over time, started realizing that when I switched careers or changed things, and I was able to grow myself in a new area, a new industry, a new avenue, whether
Okay.
it's becoming an author, a CEO, or the project program portfolio management expert, or a Microsoft person, and so on. I realized I was using the same strategies.
Okay.
And those strategies were one, deliberate practice.
Okay.
It's being proactive and focused on deliberate practice. Number two, it was having a coach, right?
Okay.
Having a mentor or a coach who was more like a tour guide and not a travel agent. And then having a band. When you're in a band, everyone's playing a different instrument, but they're all focused on playing a particular song, or if you're in an orchestra, they're all playing a specific piece, and everyone's on the same page. They're talking the same language, and you're sharpening each other's skills. And so I realized that those three elements of that I learned as a kid playing music have served me throughout my career.
And I love your analogies to music. As someone who's played a couple different instruments, I really relate to it. So let's start with deliberate practice. That's where you
Yeah,
started. You know, I think this is interesting. I often tell people we're ready for what we're trained for. You
right.
know, I do long distance races, and people will say, "How can you do that distance?" Because I've been training for it. Right?
Exactly.
If like the day that I step up to an ultra marathon start line, if someone said run your fastest 5K today, I couldn't do it. Right? That's
Right.
not what I'm trained for. So when we're
Right.
talking about productivity, what do we want to deliberately
Yeah.
practice?
Well, with productivity, you want to deliberately practice. It really starts with a mindset
Yeah.
of two things: growth and being proactive,
Okay.
right? It's growth and being proactive. What productivity is not is being so busy that you don't have time to breathe. You
Yeah.
don't have time for yourself. You don't have time for your family. You don't have time for your health. That's the opposite of productivity, because in the end, you're going to burn out and you're not going to be productive in the long run. But what I learned was that deliberate practice, by thinking through that if I'm going to work on a piece of music or if I'm going to learn a song, I'm going to think about what do I want to develop and how do I want to grow with this. When I was in college, I'd studied classical and jazz music. There were pieces that my professor would give me or my coach would give me that were really complicated. And some things I could play really easy, but some passages were very difficult. And so I would have a practice session where I'd go in a room and I'd say, I'm going to practice for 30 minutes, but I'm only going to work on that part that was really difficult. And I
Mhm.
would slow it down and play it very deliberate, make sure I got every note. Then I would try to speed it up and see if I could play it really fast. Then I would play it to make sure I did all the bowings or however the fingerings were. And then, after doing that so many different iterations, I would now play the piece. And when I got to that section, I went right through it and it felt comfortable because I deliberately took time to
Mhm.
focus on improving in an area that was difficult. I think as you as a runner, as you're practicing running, you probably get to a place and go, okay, this is a little bit more challenging once I hit this mile or this point. So I'm going to get myself to that point and I'm going to practice getting better in that space where I'm out of breath or I'm feeling this way or feeling that way, so that
Yep.
your body gets used to it and you can push past it and it becomes something where you become comfortable. And so a part of deliberate practice also is embracing being uncomfortable. Because
Yeah.
anytime you're saying you want to grow and change, you're doing something that you're not used to doing. And normally, when we do something we're not used to doing, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to do it poorly.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that's okay.
Yeah, I love this, Gerald, with the mindset that we have a growth mindset, right? Like not only do what do we want to grow and produce and make happen in terms of results for the project or the organization or the client, but also how do we want to grow and develop? What skills are we taking on? And that digging in where it's not working,
Right.
right? Like,
Right.
oh, we're not getting the monthly reports out on time, or the coordination between these departments is not working right. And
Right.
actually getting uncomfortable and looking
Right.
at what's going on there and talking to all the people or observing. You got to take that time in the short term to be
Exactly.
more productive in the long term.
Exactly. And the best organizations in the world practice something called Kaizen, and they allow everyone in the organization to pull the cord, if you will, to say, wait a minute, this process that we're working on, there's a problem with it. And the team comes together, they put their brains together, they mastermind around it, and they figure out how to optimize that particular process. Now they pull the cord and everybody goes back to work. But that area that was a challenge has gotten better. And it's the mindset of continuous improvement,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
so what has to happen is that one, you got to start, right? You got to start playing, you got to start practicing, you got to start running, you got to start the process. But
Mhm.
then as you're doing it, realize that when you first start, like learning to speak a language or learning to play a new instrument, you're going to do it poorly, and that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
if you get comfortable being uncomfortable and continually working on it and deliberately, going after it, then you can improve in a market way and you will see progress. And here's the goal of your goals. The
Okay.
goal of your goals is, who do you become
Mm,
once you achieve that goal?
yeah.
Because you have to elevate yourself and grow, your neural network, your biology, your kinesiology, your physiology, your mindset. You
Mhm.
have to grow to a certain level to start producing at another level. And what happens is that if they took everything away from you after you grew yourself, you get it right back, because
Yes.
the goal was not accomplishing this thing or
Yeah.
how much money you have in the bank or the job or the promotion. It was, who did you become,
Yeah.
that you pull those things into your life and that you are now playing at this level.
Yeah,
And
now you've got mindsets and thoughts and beliefs that are more readily
figure out the
available to
formula.
you.
Exactly.
Yeah,
You
you've
figure out the
changed your
formula.
practices. You might be
Yes.
more comfortable having tough conversations or
Right.
digging into an issue because you know the benefit once you do that dig in and you come out the other side.
Exactly.
I love it.
Exactly.
Gerald, let me pause you here for a moment and tell our listeners more about you. And then
Okay.
we're going to find out why we want a tour guide, not a travel agent. I love that metaphor. Gerald J. Leonard offers a unique productivity approach to accomplishing more every day. Gerald is a certified project management professional, a certified portfolio management professional, and a certified IQ coach. He's the publishing editor, CEO, and founder of the Leonard Productivity Intelligence Institute, as well as the CEO of Turnberry Premiere, a strategic project portfolio management and IT governance firm based in Washington, D.C. Gerald is also an author, TEDx speaker, management guru, and importantly, a bass player. So you see why he is completely qualified to have this conversation. He brings all of those traits and skills into his presentations and interviews. Gerald is the author of A Symphony of Choices, a business parable. Culture is the Bass, and Workplace Jazz. And Gerald has some offers. He has some resources for all of the Courage of a Leader podcast listeners. And you will be able to go to this website, geraldjleonard.com. I'm going to spell that for you, GeraldJLeonard.com/courage, geraldjleonard.com/courage, and you'll find some additional productivity resources. Thank you for being here, Gerald.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for that great introduction. I really
Yeah,
appreciate it.
yeah, absolutely. So, when we asked about getting at hidden gems of productivity, you said one,
Sure.
deliberate practice, two, a coach or a mentor, and three, the band. So now we're talking about two, the coach or the mentor, and you likened this person to a tour guide instead of a travel agent. Explain.
Sure, sure. When you go on vacation and there's like they give you all these brochures and things, um, and you go behind to the concierge, and they can say, "Hey, you should go on this trip, or you should go on that trip," and you ask them, "Have you ever been on it?" "Oh, no, I just started working here. I haven't been on it yet." Blah blah blah. That is a travel agent,
Yeah.
right? Because so basically they have the information and can tell you that this is a really good experience, but they themselves don't have the skills or the background or the experience to actually take you there.
Okay. Yep. Yep.
But
Yep.
if you take that
Tour guide.
brochure, call the company up and it says, "Oh, we have been to that, top of Kilimanjaro, or we've been here, or we've been there, we've done it hundreds of times, we take people 2 or 3 times a day." Now you're talking to a tour guide. And so when you get to the facility and you're getting ready to go on your trip, they're going to say, "Okay, here's what you got to do to prepare. Make sure you have your water, make sure you have this, make sure you have that, loose clothing," or whatever that case is for preparation. But now, as you're going along, they're going to stop and say, "Okay, now look to your left. Now look at that rock and look over here." They're going to start showing you things that are not on the map.
Yeah.
Going to show you the details, and they're going to tell you things around how to traverse the terrain in a way that will protect you, and also a way that will enlighten you and help you to grow. So they literally will kind of take you through that. They'll show you what to watch out for and what to look for
Mm-hmm.
in your experience. And so whenever I'm looking for a coach
Yeah.
or a mentor, I'm looking for someone who's been there, done that many times. Because I know if I pull out my wallet and pay them to help me get to that next level, they're going to give me the most direct route. They're going to show me all of the gotchas. They're going to explain things to me that I hadn't even thought about. And they're going to help me to really become, my better self and really embody that experience. And what was interesting growing up playing music was that I was the youngest of six. So when I wanted to become a bass player, I worked and got my own instrument, and then I was like, "I want to get better." And they're like, "Okay, we want you to get better too, but you're gonna have to go and do some more work and pay for lessons." And so I
Mm-hmm.
was like, "Cool, okay." So being a kid, I could mow some lawns, I could do
Yeah.
some chores, and I made money to go find a teacher
Okay.
to pay them
Yeah.
as a 10, 11, 12, 13, 14-year old.
Mm-hmm.
So now I'm paying my money, not my parents' money, but my money for these lessons. So guess what I did? I took my notepad and pencil. I
Got the
asked
most out of
questions.
that.
I wanted every nickel I could get from this person's knowledge because
Right.
I was paying,
Yeah.
but I never lost that lesson to invest in myself.
Lovely.
And
Love.
that if I wanted to grow, I had to find a teacher who knew what they were talking about and had experience. I've been now coached by Jack Canfield, Dr. Paul Shilley, Dr. Bobby Stevens, Les Brown, a
Yeah.
number of other people who have been there, done that
Yeah.
to help me grow myself to where I'm going in my life. And I still have probably about 5 or 6 coaches that are on my payroll
Yeah.
because it's about investing in myself to get to where I'm going.
I love it, Gerald. So yeah, I think so. Obviously, there's different ways to get that coach, that tour guide, that teacher into our lives, right? We could hire
Right,
one, or we could
right,
hire multiple ones, right? We might have people
right.
helping us in different ways. You might have ask folks to be your mentor inside of your organization or in other organizations. I'm also thinking, Gerald, just about times like, can I pick your brain on
Exactly,
this? Right. And
exactly.
like, yeah, getting some guidance from somebody who has some of that experience or has a different perspective or view on it.
Right. And you can also be mentored by people who've also passed away from us
Mm,
by reading their books, watching their programs that they've recorded, listening to past interviews, just really digging in and kind of, meditating and visualizing, having a conversation with this person and hearing their voice through all of these different things that are left there for us. Again, books and
yeah.
so on. And here's one metaphor I use, and I when I speak, and to teach people about the value of coaching.
Okay.
Imagine, living in the DC, Chicago, anywhere there's like a lot of traffic. Even Central Florida now has tons of traffic. I just came back from there from visiting family, and it's commuting time. Now, you can either do it one of two ways. You can either do it by yourself, you get in the car and you get in the regular traffic lane and you try to get to where you're going.
Yeah.
Now, a 20-minute ride normally may take you 2 hours
Yeah.
because of traffic. And I think we've all been there.
Yeah.
But if you have someone with you,
Mm,
there's something called the HOV lane. And to me, coaching and mentoring is like getting on the HOV lane in your career or in your personal life.
get in the fast lane.
Exactly. You can put the car on cruise control.
Mm,
You can turn up the music. You can have a conversation.
okay.
You're enjoying this experience. On the other hand,
Yeah.
those who decided to commute by themselves are stuck in traffic. People are cutting them off. They're going 5 miles an hour. It's taking 2 hours to get home.
Mm,
Unless they're listening to a good book, it's becoming really boring and frustrating. If it really gets bad, you're like, okay, where's the next gas station? Am I going to make it? You have all
yeah.
these worries. And so, when I look at the experience of how do I want to make it through life, do I
Yeah.
want to be in the car by myself, struggling and trying to figure it all out by myself? Or would I rather be on the HOV lane
Yeah.
with a mentor or a coach who's experienced and enjoy the process and enjoy the journey
Yeah.
because goals are more than just getting to a destination. If you're not enjoying the journey along with going to the destination, then you really have to rethink that goal. Because even as a professional musician, most professional musicians are only spending 5% of their time on stage.
Yeah, so it's the journey, it's the practice, it's the rituals where we actually become a different version of ourselves
Exactly.
with
And if
the
I don't
pathway.
enjoy if I don't enjoy that process, then being on stage is hit or miss because if I have a good performance, I'm really excited. If I have a bad performance, then I'm like, this is horrible, this sucks, blah blah blah, and
Yeah.
so on. And life's is a struggle.
Yeah.
But if I'm enjoying the journey and I get on stage and I'm enjoying it and I make one mistake, I go, oh, I hit 99% of the notes right. I had 1% that I made a flub. Who cares? They probably didn't even hear it. And more likely they didn't.
Right. Right.
So you
Right.
enjoy your life so much more with that mentality. And that's what I've learned. And while I think that's one of my productivity secrets is really having the right coach and mentor.
Yeah. Yeah. I like it. And I also wrote down here, Gerald, ask for help. Right. If we're
Yes,
going to have those people in the car with us in the HOV lane, right, we got to ask them to be there. Right. We might
right.
need to reach out and say, will
Yes,
you help me here? Will you play this role? We're searching for folks to hire. I love it.
exactly.
I love it. All right, let's talk about the band.
Being in the band gave me community, gave me camaraderie. It sharpened my skills. It gave me immediate feedback. And so when I did my bachelor's and master's in music and did some ministry work at one time and decided I didn't want to be on the road because we had had kids. And so I switched careers and got into IT. And in fact, I got into IT, I always say this, at a time where if you could spell IT, they would let you in. The need was so bad.
Yeah, yeah.
Picking up a computer was like picking up another instrument. So I grew in it pretty quickly. But I noticed that, okay, so if I want to grow in this new field, I got to practice.
Yeah.
I need a coach. Found some people who could coach me. And then I found a band by joining associations.
Great. Yep.
And so I got into project management. So I joined the Microsoft Project User Group and eventually became the president of the chapter in the DC, Virginia area for about 9 years. I joined PMI, the Project Manager Institute, and I would go to the meetings and I met people who spoke my language.
Yeah.
And so just over the years of talking shop and being in the band made me a better musician,
Yeah.
made me a better expert in my area. So when I became a CEO, I joined CEO roundtables. When I became a speaker, I joined the National Speakers Association. I met Willie Jolly. I met Les Brown. I met all these different other speakers. I met Mike Rayburn when I do my keynotes and play bass because that's what he's done. He played at Carnegie Hall 10 times. So I
Yeah.
surrounded myself,
Yes. Yes.
right? I surrounded because you are the total, consummation of all the people you surround yourself with.
Right.
So if I surround myself with people who are really not going anywhere and they're talking about the news and the traffic and blah blah blah, then that's going to be the accumulation of what's going to be going on in my life. But
Yeah.
if I surround myself with people who have a vision and a goal and aspirations and they're doing things and they have plans and dreams, then that's all going to rub off. That's one cool thing about playing music is sometimes it's not what's said that you catch because you hear someone playing like, oh, well, he never said he was going to play that part, but he's doing it. And I'm going to kind of go along and make sure I'm supporting him and I'm going to listen in. And next thing you know, you're picking up on a new vibe of playing or a new style or a new technique just from being around people who have those skills.
Yes. Yes. I'm hearing so many benefits of being surrounded by the band, right? And
Yes,
every listener, think about like who is your band?
right,
Because we can tap into the knowledge of other people. We don't know what we don't know, and we can
right.
get exposure to that if we're inside of community. And then I also heard you saying people around, they can lift us up, they can inspire us, right? Because,
Exactly.
well, I mean,
It,
let's be real, stuff gets hard sometimes.
yes, it does.
Dynamics
But if you
change
have
in
a
our
support
world.
group, you have that band and that support group, it makes it easy. And here's the thing I learned from a lot of my coaches, and one of the reasons I still invest in coaches who are at the highest level because and sometimes they're saying things that I know I already know, but I want to be in their presence because there's certain things that are not taught. They're caught. And so, but you can only catch it when you're in proximity of the person who's living at that higher level, because they may be such an expert at something that they're totally oblivious to the fact that that's in their life.
Mm,
It's like being conscious. It's like being unconsciously competent.
yes.
When you're unconsciously competent, you don't even know you're doing something.
Yeah, yeah. You might not be able to explain all the steps or the thoughts that go
Right.
into
But if I'm around you, if
yeah.
I'm spending time with you and I'm around you, I'm going to experience that. I'm going to see it. And
Mhm.
there's going to be things that you're going to do. I'm going like, he didn't say anything about that, but I noticed he does this, that, and the other. Wow, okay. And because we all as human beings have something called mirror neurons,
Mhm.
right? That's when you see someone who on television who are on the train or in a car and they're smiling or laughing, and you start smiling or laughing because of that. That's your mirror neurons. I had all of these things started happening because I was elevating my being, my
Yes.
mindset,
Yeah.
and I was doing it differently than I had done it early in my life. Where
Mhm.
before, as a project manager, I come up with a goal, I plan it all out, and I just work my plan. Now I'm not sure if I can work my plan the way I used to.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I would come up with a goal, and then I would look for inspired action through meditation. What is my body? What is God? What is the universe telling me I need to do next to move this forward? I have in mind what I want. And by raising my vibration, by raising my level of being, I
Mhm.
start attracting the resources. Many of the things that started happening in my life started coming to me more than me going out trying to find them and struggling to get them.
Yeah. I think this is a really powerful place to wrap up our discussion, Gerald. Like with so many things that you said about mindset along the way.
Yes,
You talked about deliberate practice, getting a coach or a mentor, having the band around you, right? But coming to all of that from a mindset of growth and being proactive and who do I want to be? And this is a journey, right? We're going to get some results along the way. We're not going to get some of the results along the
right.
way due to circumstances, right? But who are we becoming? What's the energy we're putting out there? What's the energy we're surrounding ourselves with? And how that grounds who we are and lifts us up to the next level.
It's all about being productivity smart.
Thank you, Gerald. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you for having me.